Hey everyone, how's it going? Today we're going to be talking about why the tier lists for Honkai Star Rail suck. And look, I do think they have the potential to get better, I really do. But I don't think that's going to be for some time to come. Here's why. Okay, so firstly, the game is new, and it can take a while for people to realize the potential of certain characters. You know, we might even have some hidden S tier units in plain sight. Now look, this comes down to our small amount of data and incomplete data of the game. As people do more wishes, unlock more characters, more eidolons, more abilities on their skill tree, we may see more characters shine in ways they didn't before. Let's use Natasha as a small example. Her skill tree includes a cleansing ability which can be a game changer sometimes. Is it worth running her in the long run though because of this? Well, only time will tell. So honestly, we're getting plenty of mid-game opinions right now, which are obviously pretty warped in terms of a long-term list on what it would realistically be. And if you don't believe me, if we look at Genshin's 1.0 tier list as an example, there were so many people who put Chi-Chi in S tier. No hate, but this was clearly wrong. Even shortly after, Barbara was also pretty highly rated. And you know who they rated below on those tier lists? Chinchu, the actual best 4-star in the game. On top of all this, due to the high levels of hype for certain characters, people often feed into each other's opinions and can't even hold a consistent opinion. If we compare CN tier lists to NA ones, we can see that there's clear differences. For example, you've probably seen a lot of people rate Clara as S tier character. Meanwhile, in CN, you won't find her in S tier. And look, there's also been a little more consistencies among other tier lists sometimes, with Sealy being S tier in a lot of NA and CN tier lists alike. So there is a little bit of consistency and reliability in areas like that. Another thing I think people aren't talking much about is the Forgotten Hall Memories of Chaos, which will change. Again, if we look back to Genshin, at the start everyone called Venti Giga broken and busted and all of that kind of stuff. Now, people just turn a blind eye to him and just get Kazuha instead. And this isn't just a power creep thing, it comes down to something else. The usefulness of a character is entirely dependent on the type of enemies we are put up against. If barely any enemies become weak to certain elements, it could hurt that said element, for example. Some enemies yet to be released could become direct counters to other current characters and strategies we already have, meaning we'd already have to rethink the tier list at that point. Of course though, they are future variables that don't affect the tier list in its current state, so it does stay version accurate, but we should realize that, especially since the game is so new right now, there is a very low shelf life on these tier lists. One other thing I want to talk about with these tier lists as well is that they're kind of misleading in a way that I don't think that any of the current characters are bad to own. I think in the most part, they all make your life easier in some way, shape or form. You know, you could have a team built for the quickest auto battling, which will obviously be different from the teams that you use in your Forgotten Hall team. Now look, you wouldn't mow your lawn with a pair of scissors, right? Everything has its own time and place and way of feeling good. I think it's funny to think though that the game is 90% not Forgotten Hall, yet we judge what characters we should build just because of that little smidge. Also, I don't think it needs to be said, but similarly to enemies, we will be getting more relics and other characters added to the game, which will have their very own synergies with current and future characters alike. However, I can't really put that against anyone as well, as we can't really just see into the future to see the next relics and characters coming up over the next year. And besides, when big things usually do come out, people are usually pretty consistent on updating their tier lists, so props to them for that. If the information they give is pretty version accurate, I don't really see any harm in it. Another thing you might want to keep in mind is that the best way that you'll get some of the most accurate information is by looking at more than one tier lists, more than one opinion, and then compare them. Of course, there will be the characters that people didn't expect to be good, as I already mentioned, so keep that in mind. I think now is the best time to experiment with characters. Try out characters that people say are good. Try out the characters you like. Play the way you want, and who knows? Maybe you're gonna be the one to discover the Shinshu of Honkai Star Rail. In the end of the day, the longer we wait, the better tier lists we'll get. We'll have more knowledge, more variables to focus on, just like Svarog. But until then, trust your instincts, follow your hearts, and remember to have fun. Thanks for watching.